All right, what is going on, guys? Trendsetter, we have got a great interview for you today because you know what? If this wrestling club was it was during my school era, you know what I mean? I would have not gotten into as much trouble as I did. But hey, you know what? Great idea. Should have thought of it myself back in the day. But right now, we are joined by somebody who has really made the headlines recently by doing something like that with young kids and having an own wrestling club, and that is, of course, Mr. Victor Perry. How are you today, man? Welcome to the HSP podcast.
Thank you, thank you. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing good, man. So listen, saw your story and I was like, man, we really should reach out because like I was telling the Trendsetter before we came on here, is like, man, if this was something that was around my time, because I was a huge wrestling fan, man. I grew up on it as well. So we have like over like 20 years of watching wrestling, right? If this is something that, we could have thought of, we probably you should have done it because we're such huge wrestling fans. Talk about your fandom. Where did it start? Where was the first time you can remember wrestling affecting your life?
Yeah, so started around third grade. Um, it was a random Saturday, and I believe it was Velocity, and it was a cruiserweight division, and I really, really enjoyed it. I believe it was Paul London and Brian Kendrick, if my memory serves me correctly. And it was a tag team match, and I was just drawn to it. So I told my twin brother William, I was like, "Yo, you should watch this." And so we waited for the next Saturday, and then it came on, and then we saw where it said it would come on Monday, and that's how we got to it. We started watching Monday Night Raw, and then Friday Night SmackDown, but I don't know if it was Friday. I think it may have been Thursday. Can't quite remember. And then from there, it just snowballed, and we both of us we just fell in love with it.
Well, falling in love, what was the biggest appealing factor of it for you? I mean, was it the storytelling? Was the athleticism in the ring? Was it the, grotesque violence or the sexual, innuendos that happened in pro wrestling? What was it about it that drew you to it?
um, the violence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think seeing people bleed was interesting, um, but more so just like they looked like superheroes. They like who can take a punch? Like these guys are taking punches to the face. And like getting kicked in the stomach and like getting slammed through tables and ladders. Like we just thought it was the coolest thing. I mean, it was something that we hadn't seen, and to see them get up without getting injured, um, it just made it entertaining. And then like I said, with the violence, the blood, like I didn't know at the time what gigging was. Um, so as a kid, I was like, "Oh my god, they're really bleeding! Like it's crazy. Like how do you bleed? Like so like like it was just one of those things. Like the disclaimer: do not try this at home. It just gave us everything that we wanted to try at home.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own why I liked it, right? Like you said, it was
Mhm.
like the larger than life superheroes. And, now as a school teacher, you're bringing this to a newer audience now. You have a chance to mold the next generation of wrestling fans with your wrestling club that you have here. What led you to show them about wrestling? Because there's so many aspects of it that in society that you can use today to teach a lesson. So, what was the main reason for showing wrestling to your students?
It started randomly after testing. We had a long day of interim assessments, which is to prepare them for the state test. And I was tired of showing Good Burger, and like those kid movies, like they're just not good. Like for me, like it's just not entertaining as anymore as an adult, and they've already seen it. And so I was like, I'm gonna put on some wrestling, because there's a student who I had taken to meet one of the wrestlers, Bianca Belair, and he liked it. So I was like, maybe they'll like it. And so I was like, well, who do I put on first, to get their interest? And so it was SummerSlam 2021, um, Roman Reigns and John Cena. And they were like the homeroom, like out of the 30 kids, five were interested. And so I was like, okay, well, this is cool. And then I put on Bianca and Sasha, and then that was when things like switched. Like all the kids, like it was like that sound that you hear on records, like that screw.
Yeah, a little
Like
screech. Yeah.
everyone like paused and like watched it, and then they started reacting. And I was like, this is interesting. Like they're screaming and cheering like they're real time. And so I filmed it and I put it online just because it just was one of those things. There's just so much joy in it. And I liked it. Like it made me feel good. So I was like, let me just let my timeline feel good, you know. For the few that do interact with me, did not expect it to go viral the way that it did and the way that it has. And so it just really just started out of just me just being like, let's just try something new with the kids. Um, and then it just snowballed. And so then I asked the kids, I was like, if we make this an official thing, like a real wrestling club, like I go and apply for it to get it after school, like, but in the meantime, like we have it every other day, would y'all come? And they were like, yes. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do my part as an educator to make it happen. And so that's what we do. We spend time every day almost during our lunch. Well, during my lunch and recess, because that's my break. So I don't really get a break throughout the day anymore because it's the wrestling club. And then after any testing. So like I tell my principal and like all the other teachers, you know, like in my classroom after testing, we're watching wrestling. And so that's what it's become known as in the school, the wrestling club.
That's become known as that in the school, right? But have you noticed now other teachers or other students from other classes kind of wanting to join in on that, or is it more just isolated to your class itself?
Uh, all four of my classes that I teach are now open to it. So there's more kids in certain classes, but like out of the four classes that I teach, all the sixth graders are open to it. I have one seventh grader. I have not opened it up to the entire school. Teachers, you know what's funny? They show interest because I'm so interested, and like I will always find a way to talk about it with them. So like today we were watching wrestling, and uh, another teacher had come in and she was talking to another teacher. She stopped and she was like watching it, and she was like, "Mr. Prey, can I pause?" And I was like, "Yeah." And the kids are like annoyed because they want to finish it, but she was asking questions, inquisitive questions. Like she wanted to know. She was like, "Is it real?" And that's the first question everyone asks. And then she was like, "Well, did they get injured? Like, how do they know what moves to do? Like, just the things that inquisitive minds that are interested would ask." And I answered them to the best of my ability. And she was kind of like, "Oh, I kind of see why you like it, and I kind of see why it's a thing." And so I was like, "Okay, well then I did my job, you know." So you know, I think it's one of those things where I let its magic work. I let it work with the kids. So adults, we're no different. We're just bigger. So it's like they'll
We're
find a
big
way to,
kids.
you know, love it as well.
I give your faculty credit because I give them tons of credit because I don't know, back in my day, right? And I don't want to date myself, but you'd have people that would kind of maybe push back to something like this because, the violence, that's the first thing they'll bring up, right? The violence. Oh, this promotes violence between people. This kind of will instigate or trigger the kids to settle it through, through fighting, right? Because they don't know, again, they don't know
Mhm.
that it's not real, that it's staged, that it's predetermined, that these are moves and these are professionals that do this and it's a storyline. So I always tell the trendsetter it's like a male soap opera for us guys, right? That
Yeah.
are into it. So
Mhm.
have you had any pushback from parents or teachers, or are they all in on this? Because there's always those certain few, right? That small percentage that just that won't get it. Any pushback?
None. Zero. Literally. Um, it's been so supportive. Parents, teachers, and even students and other kids. Like no pushback. It's just I think it's because of the way in which I invested the kids. I didn't shove it down their throats. I didn't say it's the greatest thing in the world. I let them see it for themselves. Um, and I think that's what makes it infectious. I think everyone outside of children know that it's not real. So it's like, what are you doing on your end to allow for it to do its magic? Are you being skeptical? Are you being, critical? Or are you actually like just looking at it for what it is, and just enjoying it? And I think that's why we haven't had any pushback. at all, which is, I guess, rare.
Yeah, I mean that's what you look at in terms of any negativity rolling your way. But has it also increased some positivity within the classroom itself? Are kids showing more enthusiasm to want to get, for example, their assignments done, get their work done quickly, so they would have time to go see these events or be part of the club? Is it shown more interest in the classroom for the reward to be, we're going to watch wrestling during our recess or during your lunch break?
Yeah. I made an incentive program. First, it started with the bulletin board on the outside of the classroom where, for Black History Month, I did a board. It was WWELA. ELA stands for English Language Arts. And the top students got their work posted, and it was posted with the Black champion. So we had like the different Black champions throughout WWE's history on the board. And then it became a thing where in the classroom, we now have, for readers, we push in our school to have kids read 1 million words of books, just whatever books they want to read, because reading not only is a great thing to do, but it also promotes students' ability to learn. And the more they read, the more intelligent they become. And so we have a board in my room for millionaires where it says our champions. And so it's like the 4 belts, the 2 women's belts and the 2 men's belts. And when a kid like gets 50,000, 100,000, and so on and so forth, they get a name, like a belt. And it's like they're a champion. And so it's really cool because the kids are like, well, I want to be a champion. And I'm like, all right, well, you got to read. And then I also bought a belt in the classroom that lives in the classroom. It's not like the most expensive replica, but it's a nice one. And kids who I see in each class doing what they need to do, they get to be the champ for the day. So they get to walk around the school with the belt. So that also creates visibility.
That's really cool. That's pretty awesome the way you can use something like wrestling and relate it to the classroom, make it as an incentive for the kids, and get a reward at the end of the day, right? I mean, for working hard. I mean, who doesn't want to spend the day carrying around a championship title,
Exactly,
a championship belt
man.
like that? Looking
It's
all
adorable. It's so adorable. So because some of them like do like the pose with it. It's
exactly.
adorable. Yeah.
Mr. Perry's class, acknowledge me, right?
Oh, we've had kids do that. Like we've had
That's
kids
awesome.
do that. Like we'll play. I was during one study break before the state test. We put on women's music. Like that was all we listened to. And like I was like, be a goat. Like like be like mom. Yeah.
You mentioned, well, obviously doing research, you've had a lot of response back from the wrestlers, the WWE superstars like Sasha Banks, Carmella Hayes, which you talked to have a good relationship with. I know you're trying to get Sasha to get involved with your group and maybe visit you guys one day. That's great, man, that you're getting this notoriety because it's something, finally talk about something positive, right? Because a lot of wrestling fans right now, there's like this little divide between WWE and AEW, right? And a lot of people just are like taking sides, like it's a war. But it's nice to know that someone's actually doing something positive with this, and we actually can all agree that this is great for the kids. And we talked about athletes like Sasha, the new Biggie, obviously reached out to. The representation of the Black athlete in WWE right now, it wasn't so much before, like in the 70s, 80s, right? I think The Rock was one of the first people to kind of break that barrier. And now you see people like Sasha Banks and Naomi, the tag team champions. You see Bobby Lashley. You have the New Day. Big E was a champion. Uh, I just think right now it's just such a positive to look up to these stars now for the kid in the urban area, in the suburbs, or wherever, in schools in the city. And hey, look, I can be this, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I literally sat down today and because I was watching Carmelo wrestle his match from last night because I was going to show the kids. And I thought to myself, watching him wrestle, I was like, damn, like I wish he was around when I was 11 and 12, because I want to do what he does. Like I think what he does is incredible. And so then I think about, if that's how I feel with him, I can only imagine what the kids are feeling when they're seeing Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair and Naomi and Big E and Kofi and The Rock, of course. But like all these Black superstars, like I'm like, dang, like I wish I had this, because like, don't know if I'd be a wrestler. I don't think I would. It looks way too painful. But
Never say never.
but the thought, like the thought of I can do that. Like growing up, I never knew that there were jobs in WWE. I thought, like as a kid, I thought WWE was literally you had to be a wrestler. And so like that's why now, because I know better, in the wrestling club, I'm constantly making my kids privy to all the jobs in WWE. Like there's room for everyone, and it starts at the top with the representation. If you want to be a superstar, you can be one, because we have them, and they're here, and they're awesome, and they're being put in a positive light. The storylines are great. um, they're given opportunities to shine, and I think it's something that I wish I had as a kid.
There's no doubt there's a lot of diversity from cultural to, you just talked about storylines of things that can be relatable to people. Now, there's no doubt you've been showing your classroom a lot of WWE content, stuff like that. But has that opened the doors when you first watched your first wrestling event? Did it open the door for you to just to stick strictly with WWE? Or were you also previous to the other things like Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, AEW, which is brand new. It's almost a year in its inception here. Have you been open to that? Not necessarily you've shown your class that, but have you been opened up to the new world in terms of the variety that's out there to choose from?
Yeah, I have been. And it's funny. I didn't know about it as a kid. Did not know. I thought WWE was the only thing with wrestling, and then there was TNA because that came on TV. Um, Outside of that, I didn't know. I didn't know there was a world that existed outside of literally WWE and TNA. And then as I've gotten older, I'm learning. People reach out. I have friends that I've made who are like, I would consider them connoisseurs because they know way more than I did, and they teach me. I have a friend who, on Discord, he's like I feel like he knows more about wrestling than anyone I've ever met, and like he will watch on Discord New Japan Pro matches, and like he was teaching me about, I think it was G1, might be
Yeah,
wrong, G1,
G1,
okay,
New Japan. Yeah.
and Bullet Club, and like the different members of Bullet Club. And I was just like, yo, this is crazy. And like, just like watch. I think we watched uh, uh, Moxley's match where he lost. I forgot the guy's name, but he lost. And then he went on a losing trail after that loss. Like it was just like the different things and like, explaining how the storylines are not as nuanced as it is on WWE, but it's still there in those countries. And then like Ring of Honor, I just learned what that is. I have no idea like what it is. I'm going to go and do research on it to know. I know it's significant. I know a lot of people came from it. But it's like, yeah, it's like I'm learning it first, so that I can teach it. As a teacher, that's how I teach. I learn it, I study it, and then I'm able to teach it. And so I want to open up my kids in the club to AEW, to Ring of Honor, especially New Japan Pro. Like, have to. Like, so it's one of those things where it's like I'm learning still, and so I need more time, but I'm open to it because I love wrestling. I
Yeah,
love all. Yeah.
I mean, listen. I think that if you have need any suggestions, let us know. But I think the Trendsetter and I can recommend to you that if you do go to New Japan, we got into because of Kenny Omega, and I'm sure you've heard of Kenny Omega, and he had a trilogy with Kazuchika Okada, and those are, I think, the ones that you would want to show your kids because I think that's kind of like the ultimate like hey, you lose the first one, but you keep trying and eventually succeed and get your goal. And that is, beating him and thinking it's impossible to do so. So, I mean, I think that would be a great couple matches to show the kids if you want to get into New Japan. But I want to talk about you took the God bless you for this because I have enough trouble with one or two kids, but you took you had a class of what 30, 40, and because of COVID and vaccination, right? You can only take the people that are vaccinated to go to Madison Square Garden. How about your first experience in wrestling, Trendsetter, going to Madison Square Garden? That is awesome, right? You can just talk about going to the mecca of sports, of everything at the Garden, right? You
Yeah.
took 9 kids. God bless you, dude, for coming back alive, right? That's the first thing, right? And you mentioned that when Bianca lost, because I think it was that WrestleMania live
Lead up.
event, right?
Hmm.
She had
Hmm.
lost, and the kids were actually crying and tearing up. How like and what lessons is there to be taught? Hey, listen, you said follow the storyline, right? And that you might be crying now, but to follow it because you might get rewarded at the end. Talk about that, man. That's impactful, man. To see kids like tearing up because they pull for somebody like Bianca Belair.
First, it wasn't just my kids. It was every kid in that building. Like
Yeah,
like you didn't think there were kids there before her match. You didn't hear them. But when she was on, all you could hear was little kids screaming, Bianca, Bianca. And then when she lost, they were gone. Didn't hear them for the rest of the night. And I'm assuming they were crying like my kids. And I don't know if you saw the video of them when Bianca won. Like the joy that they had. Oh, it was so incredible. Um, I taught them the lesson. I told them redemption is real. You know, we all have to take an L. You can't get around it. You can't escape it. And so it's not about how you take the L, it's about how you respond to the L. And so in Bianca's case, she did not give up. You know, and we went through it. We said Becky told her to get to the back of the line. That's literally life. Sometimes you have to go to the back to get back to the top. And we watched her climb her way through graciously, you know. Um, and any obstacle that was thrown in her way, she handled it with such grace. I mean, she handled it like an EST, you know.
yeah,
And I think the kids gravitated to, but I gravitated to it because you know I'm still young and I'm still trying to figure out where I want to go in life and figure out um, the goals that I want to achieve, and I'm having a lot of setbacks. And so seeing that, I was like, like that's life. You know, you're gonna have L's, and they're gonna come when you least expect it. And sometimes you can try your best to prepare for it, but in her case, she could not prepare for it, as anyone can. And it's okay. Like it's okay to live in that L, but don't live in it too long. You know, you got to get back to creating those W's. And so that's why when she won, I think it was just such a beautiful moment because the kids saw someone black win, you know, and in media right now for the last few years, the way black children especially have been depicted with Trayvon Martin and, and and like the different things like that, always so negative. And so for them to see a black person portrayed positively after responding to something so negative, it was great. Like I think the kids just they didn't know what they were feeling, but I knew it. The crying and the cheering and the jumping out of the seats and like the screaming and hollering and like just dancing, like it was just I felt their elation, but also I felt them breathe. I felt for once it felt like in the classroom, um, they realized that this is life and it's okay. Like I'm a winner, and just because I lose doesn't make me a loser. And so that's why I really loved. I'm happy and I applaud WWE and the writers um, for however that came about because I don't know if that story would have been told any other way. But I'm happy that it was because it's something that can be taught to anyone of all ages.
you know what's awesome about that is that you look at that perfect example you just said, and you said so well and eloquently about Bianca and never giving up and getting the back in line, and it really comparing it to really what life is, right? But when you talk about WWE, any form of entertainment, whether you're watching a movie, a sitcom, a series, a sporting event, you get something that you relate to it, something that draws you to it as it drew you to want to showcase this to the kids in your class, and then showing life lessons for it. But it's amazing how it's so relatable in so many ways. And I call now with all the variety of stuff, whether it be pro wrestling or sports entertainment, whichever one people want to call it nowadays, it's the same thing basically. There's a lot of if you don't like WWE, you can try this or you can try that, and it's just a little bit for everyone. I call it Baskin Robbins basically. It's like try all 31 flavors, see which one you like. If you don't like vanilla, if you like chocolate mint, go ahead, try that yourself. There's just so many options out there to choose from though. Jeff mentioned it, and you said you survived taking them to Madison Square Garden. It's a
Trendsetter. He bought them pizza.
Then he thought that they were going to be full, and then he didn't realize. Well, I mean, obviously, kids need to eat every like 3 hours. Then he's
3 hours. About 3 minutes.
Yeah,
talking about 3 hours.
So then he goes, and then he goes, gets popcorn, gets soda and all that stuff. But then after that, they're still hungry after the event.
So he basically put 3 months' salary into the food at the concession stands. Admirable from you to do that too. But it's like in terms of your students now and what they're they're enjoying the club that they're a part of right now. Too sweet, like throw the signal out there, Bullet Club, when they mention club. But any way of wanting to advance this, because for example, Jeff and I have always said maybe this is not more for your kids, but maybe for yourself to try it out. Though I've always told everyone too that you can never really fully experience it until you actually been in an event. You've been in an event, a live event at Madison Square Garden. I'm not talking about a Raw. I'm not talking about SmackDown. A WrestleMania is a WrestleMania down the road for yourself to experience that. Because I warn you this, just fair warning. If you do choose to do that, I don't think it's going to be just one and done. It's like a potato chip, Just be careful there because there's no experience like going to a WrestleMania.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you this much. One, yes, but I've never experienced this before. This year, this school year, never been to an event. I went to one as a kid, but where I'm from, it's like really small and like it's hard to get to the different events. And my parents, they just were not no. So now that I'm an adult, I went to my first event. I'll never forget it. It was Survivor Series in Barclays. And then I didn't know that they were coming the next night of the Monday Night Raw. So when we met Bianca, we got tickets and I went again. So those 2 events alone, they left me feeling depleted. Like I did not want it to end. I was just like, I can't not experience this again. And so that's why I went to the Madison Square with the kids, and then I went to SmackDown by myself, and I paid. Basically, I did not pay rent, so I could experience. Because I was like, okay, I've experienced the 100 level, so like I know like I had good seats like in the 100 levels, and so like I could see like the floor, and I could see this is where people sit by the cameras and like they can touch the wrestlers. I was like, I need that. Like I don't want it any other way. Like I don't want to experience wrestling ever again without being in the hundreds or closer. And so now that I've been literally row 3 on the floor behind the commentator's table, and I'm short, so like I couldn't, get in the camera shots and like touch the wrestlers. I was like, nah, it's not good enough. So I'm probably broke. I probably need to figure out how to make more money because I'm gonna spend money on this. Like WrestleMania is a yes. I don't know how much I'm gonna spend, but I know I've heard people have been telling me like WrestleMania is a beast. It's a week thing, and like it's one of the things where it's like once you go, you can't go back. Like it's like once in a lifetime experience. One of my friends that went, WrestleMania was April 3rd. She just now got off her WrestleMania high this past week.
It's funny
a month later.
Victor, it's funny you said that because we went to Dallas for Mania.
You went this year?
We did. Yeah. We've done it since WrestleMania 29. We've gone. Oh, wow. The only thing that stopped us is the pandemic because we didn't go to Tampa for that time. That's the only a force of nature, a disease. Could have forced us not to go, right? So we didn't do that, but came back. Went to Dallas, had an amazing time, and just recently we got over a hangover because the week after you're like, man, I was at WrestleMania last week, and doesn't matter the card, it's the experience, dude, because it's the atmosphere. It's like right now, everyone's, may the fourth be with you. Everyone's doing like their Star Wars tribute, right? And it's the same thing, man. Everyone loves their thing. It's a bunch of wrestling fans. The atmosphere is amazing, and we do recommend that you try it definitely at least once when it comes back here to New York. But I didn't want to leave. Yeah, I didn't want to end.
You don't think so?
I say that jokingly just because from the experience we had at 29 and 35, we live in New Jersey, so it's not that far. We don't live that far from MetLife, literally. But for people trying to go in from New York to there and taking transit and public transportation, it's not the best form of transportation. Just tell
it's not
you
ready.
Right
They're
now.
not ready for
They're
it.
not ready for it. Do you think after one time they did, it would have been? But hey, never say never. New York is a mecca. The only stadium they really do have is MetLife. So I'm not gonna say they're not gonna come back, but I wouldn't hold my breath anytime soon.
Well, here's the thing, though. Before it was one night, so you'd have like maybe 5-6 hours. You'd be there, and it would end till like 1 a.m. But now, if they're going to divide it now into 2 nights, if you get it out there by 11, it should be better because that Ronda Rousey match in the triple threat that didn't end till like almost like 12:30. You know what I mean? So by then, everyone's trying to get out and trying to take transportation,
right? Because they want to get home.
Yeah. So, but if it ends by 11, like they've been doing the last couple of years now, when you do it on a Saturday and Sunday, I think it should be fine. But definitely, though, it's just the transportation. Other than that, the atmosphere, again, you can tailgate there, you can park there, do that stuff. So definitely, though, that would be awesome, though. I would say definitely experience WrestleMania. But before we end this convo here, I want to talk about your music because not only are you a school teacher, but you're also a musician. You've cracked over 1 million listeners per month now, and just talk about your what kind of music you sing. And you got a song that's out for the summer called Punching Bag. I listened to it before. Definitely a nice vibe for the summer. So talk about your music real quick and you just promote yourself here for us for the last few minutes here on the show.
Yeah, appreciate it, by the way. I'm multifaceted. I do a lot. But music is like my second love. I think wrestling's first. It has become first, but for music,
both can live together because with music and wrestling, it all tells a story. I mean, without Roman Reigns' music, it doesn't hit that spot, that feeling you have when he walks out into the ring.
That's true.
That music is part of the whole package.
Yeah, it's the DNA. Right. Yeah, I would love to marry the two together one day as a career. So if WWE ever knows that, that's what I want to do. But I write pretty much anything, from pop to R&B to dance to country to indie alternative. Love indie alternative music. And I am a top line singer as well. So like a lot of people hit me up and I just sing, whether it's a cover, if they want me to cover a song, or if they want me to write an original, which is even better. I write original music and then they produce it, and then I have labels that I work with, indie labels, and then they release it. And so like I release pretty much every other Friday, give or take. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it. Love it.
That is awesome, man. And again, though, continued success on that. Again, check out the single Punching Bag for the summer. You released it a couple weeks ago, I believe. And so success on that.
And I got to ask you this, too. If there was one WWE superstar that you could write for their music as they go down to the ring, who would you want to do it for? And I'll make it easier for male and female. So I'll give you two options here.
That doesn't help. Oh, my gosh. Because
difficult, right?
Because
he loves Randy Orton.
Okay, you said Orton?
You like? I know you like Randy.
Yeah,
Orton.
it's like the thing is, I hear in my head, I was literally about to say "Burning My Light." Like I still hear that song. Like that song is never leaving me ever. Like I would love to write something like that for Orton or someone like Orton. And I think also theme songs are such a big role, like you mentioned, because I hear Judas, and when I do catch AEW. It's crazy how the audience knows every lyric and they're singing it. And so, yeah, I would want to write for, I would challenge myself. I'd write for Carmella. I would have to figure out how to swag just down for his character. But I write for him for men because I know he's going to be like the next superstar. So like I would write for him. And then for women,
So many to choose from, right?
I know, and they got a lot of good ones. Oh man. I could see myself writing a song that Cora Jade would like.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I could see her liking some of my style. Roxanne.
Okay. All right. Nice.
I could see them going down the ramp to something that I was singing. Yeah.
Now, and I have to ask this because we're just kind of I'm piggybacking off of what I just asked you too. It's like, what theme song, has been in your head that you secretly hum to yourself as if you're going down the ring yourself? We all have those moments.
Trendsetter saving the best questions
okay.
for last.
It's okay. We've all had those moments. I myself have moments. I'm not gonna lie that sometimes when I'm working out on my phone here, I have some wrestling theme songs on there to get me in the mood.
Oh my gosh, there's several of them, and I'm laughing because I sing. Oh my god, that's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing, but I have several outside of "Burning My Light" because I do listen to that religiously. Like that's just a song. Like it's a song at this point. It's not a theme.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always singing Bianca's theme song.
Okay, there you go.
And I'm like, I have hair, so like, I'll be like,
you pretend you're doing the whip, right? You're doing
there you go.
That's awesome. There you go. That's awesome, man.
Sasha's song is infectious. I think I still don't know the lyrics, but it's infectious. Okay, so everyone loves Seth's song.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Romans, I like to do like the I love the Mozart like thing. So yeah, those are my songs.
Right now, since Mania, I've been humming the Cody song. So
I haven't learned it yet.
Oh, but that's a good song though. Like it's been in my, like I said, we kind of thought it was gonna be Cody, right? And so when you hear that song they use in AEW, it's just like, man, it's just perfect song to hum too. So
I'm gonna download it and learn it.
Yep. So listen, you can follow on Instagram at Wallflower named Perry, and also on Twitter you can follow him at Wallflower Perry. Listen, continued success, man. Love what you're doing. Anytime you got something coming up, please come back. Feel free to come on the show, dude. You got our support. Anything you need, whatever, any questions, anything, please reach out, man. But definitely like your story and what you're doing. Molding the young wrestling minds of tomorrow is awesome, man. And you're doing it in a positive light, man. Appreciate you, dude.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
Bye.